Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the Fenix token. This project has not even launched yet. So if you ever wonder if you could find out about a project early, if you could get in on day one, this could be that project. Now, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to get into the Fenix token. Anything that is brand new is risky. Anything in crypto is risky. We're first going to cover the Fenix project and try to understand exactly what it is. I'm going to touch on the developer a little bit, Joe Blau, which, by the way, open invitation to Mr. Blau. You are welcome to come on the channel. I would be glad to interview you. You don't have to do a sponsored video. I would just be glad to interview you. The other thing that I want to do in this video is I want to talk about two different possible plays that we could make because of the Fenix token. Is this token going to be the next 100x, the next 1000x, the next 10,000x? Well, believe it or not, there is some precedence that that could happen. Again, I'm not saying that it will happen. However, there is a downside to this token, and there's some risk I want to talk about. One of the things that I'm looking at when I'm looking to play this token, I'm always looking at how can I get into a risk-free position for the long term in the event that it does that 10,000x. I don't want to be stressed out about my funds, have my funds locked up and never be able to get them out. So I'm going to be talking about two different possible ways to be able to play this token, how we can get our funds out, and what the future may hold. When you watch my videos, one thing you'll notice is even if I'm biased, even if I'm invested in a project, I always do my best to share with you the good, the bad, the ugly, both sides of the coin. What you don't hear on my YouTube channel is non-stop positive shilling without recognizing what are some concepts that could basically cause a project to potentially go bad. I try to share with you what my thoughts are as an investor. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm an investor, and I have to think through these things for myself. So I always try to share my own thought processes. What are the factors I'm trying to navigate? How much profit do I want to try to get out of a project? And how do I want to minimize my risk? Understanding that, you have to try to be objective and you have to be aware of your own bias to a project. And you have to ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? And am I prepared for in the event that I'm wrong? Too often in cryptocurrency, everybody's trying to hit a home run. And they keep seeing people on YouTube and their buddies in crypto who are actually getting lucky. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Plenty of people win the lottery every day, but most people never hit it and they end up in the negative. In cryptocurrency, all you got to do is try to hit some singles and doubles, and plenty of home runs will come your way. Swinging for the fences is a surefire way to go broke. And we have to think logically, like we were investing a large amount of money instead of playing the lottery. With that being said, let's talk about what is the Fenix project, what is the Fenix token. This project, even though it's not launched yet, it is borrowing a lot of the concepts from Hex. Those of you that are familiar with the Hex project with the founder Richard Hart, very controversial figure, and the Hex project has been very controversial as well at times. Started out doing really well. That project actually did over 10,000x at one point. Now it has since come back drastically. I mean, it has pulled back. Let me grab the chart for you. All right, here we go. This is the Hex chart. Now, if you look back, this thing at one point in time, all the way down to it had 4 zeros and a 7. Now, if you look at based on where it's at today, it's at 1 0 and a 7. So what's that, like 100x? But at all-time highs, it was way up here. People have made a boatload of money, no question. But anyone who bought in over here is underwater right now. A lot of people are underwater if they didn't buy way back here. But even when Hex launched, there was some controversy because people didn't like the concept. I had no problem with the fundamental concept of Hex. Listen, people didn't like Xen, people didn't like Ethereum when it came out. So fundamentally, I didn't have a problem with Hex as it stood. And I still don't have a problem with Hex as it currently stands. But there is some real criticism of Hex. And that is, if you come down here, there's an origin address on Hex, essentially. There's a God well. Basically, every time you mint Hex as an investor, then there's also a duplicate Hex minted that goes to another wallet address. It's held by, allegedly, Mr. Richard Hart himself. No one knows that, of course. It can't be proven yet, to my knowledge. Also, there was a sacrifice phase with Hex. So with Hex, you had to send in Ethereum, and then at some point you had to wait and hope that you got your Hex back. Ironically, that's where some of the controversy is. Richard Hart is supposed to be rolling out a brand new chain called the Pulse chain. Lots of people sacrificed almost, 2 years ago now, I believe. And at the time, people thought Pulse chain was going to launch within 2 or 3 or 4 months, and it hasn't launched, and we're coming up on, I think, 2 years. So there's a lot of controversy there, and I think that's partially contributed to what's going on with the hex price. It's not all related just to hex. It may be related to other things going on in the ecosystem, like the failure of Pulse chain to actually launch. So I'm certain there are a lot of people that are going to think, hey, this is like hex, but removes a lot of the criticism, a lot of the things that people have criticized hex about. And there's a lot of optimism. You're like, hey, hex exploded. Maybe Phoenix can explode, but even better. Will that happen? I'm going to discuss that here in a moment about the possibility of that happening and why it may not happen. But I want to come over here to talk about the developer really quickly. I don't know Joe Blau personally, but I've seen interviews, and supposedly he was an early employee with Uber. He has a technical background. He sounds like someone who really embraces the first principles concepts. That's one of the reasons I'd like to interview him, because I really, in the crypto space, so many people are out just to make a buck. I believe the biggest gains in crypto are through long-term adoption. Period. End of story. I mean, if you follow my channel, yes, I'd make short-term investments. Yes, I'm all about going in, getting out, or at least taking profit, at least getting to break even. I'm all about trading. I do all the things. I'm all full on into the crypto ecosystem. I play in the centralized land, the centralized exchanges. I play in the decentralized places. But at the end of the day, long term, my heart is with the technology and the idea of these first principles. However, I am not certain if Phoenix succeeds, even if we remove the OA address, even if we remove the Richard Hart of the world that, people complain about. People who don't like Hex, sometimes they don't like Hex just because of Richard Hart. I don't think this necessarily means that Phoenix is going to succeed. Case in point is this project called Wise Token. Wise Token launched shortly after Hex launched, a few months after Hex. And it was started by a gentleman who was an original investor inside the Hex community. When he realized that Richard Hart got a copy of all the Hex minted, and he realized how the sacrifice phase worked, then he started recognizing that there may be I think he was one of the first ones to blame or to claim that there's some wash trading going on, where the Ethereum from the Godwell wallet, if you will, was being used to buy back Hex to pump the price. And when he saw those things, he basically pulled away, and it was big drama, and it was fun to watch on YouTube for a while. He created his own project, and it really seemed like he was trying to create a project that similar concept. You stake these stakes for a long period of time. You try to capture the time value of money through a cryptocurrency, through a decentralized staking platform. That was the whole idea behind it. However, it sounded very pure, and it seemed like it should do really good. But if you look at all time, it never really had the run up that Hex had. I mean, it started at 30 something cents, went up to 30, what was that, 60 cents? 86 cents right there. Came back down, went back up, eventually came down. If you notice, it just kind of trended down. Now, this is very different than the Hex price. Arguably, Hex always had a much bigger, much more passionate community. But see these big spikes here? A lot of people in the Hex community don't want to talk about this. I'm aware of it. I didn't care per se as far as it pumped the price. Okay, great. But there's a lot of argument about Ethereum was being used to buy up Hex every time the price dipped, every time the price dipped. In fact, Richard Hart on one of his live streams, on several live streams, he would always comment, the price can't dump. Every time the price dumps, there's some anonymous Godwell who just keeps buying up the Hex token. And that was true until the Godwell stopped buying up the Hex token. Some believe that the Godwell was using the Ethereum that was originally sacrificed, or at least part of that Ethereum, to be able to support the price and or to help cause this price to pump. And if that's true, and I'm not telling you that it is, I'm just saying that's speculation. If that's true, it's obvious why the Wise token never really had the same size of pump, if you will, the same way that Hex did. But please note, it still doubled here. That's not including any of the earnings that came from staking as well. So there is some profit potential. Now, part of the problem with Wise is that, again, the community size was never anywhere near what Hex was based on my memory. And the community slowly over time really has fizzled out a great deal. What Fenix has going, or Phoenix, however you say it, Phoenix, however you want to say it, what it has going for it is a couple of things. One is it has the entire Xen community. So this project is basically part of the Xen ecosystem. If you're not familiar with the Xen project, go watch the audio Litepaper reading that I did. It's about an 18-minute video, and that's a great way to get an introductory. I'll link that video above. I'll put it down in the description. The Xen, and I'm going to be covering Xen more on this channel, so if you like the Xen project, if you want to know more about it, make sure that you subscribe. But the Xen project has a huge community. I mean, huge. And I think that that community is going to outgrow the Hex community really, really soon. Now, it doesn't mean that Xen, right now, Xen is doing really well. The price is pumped a lot. It's like up like 10x the past month. Of course, people are thinking that it's going to go to the moon. I've got my own price prediction for Xen. If you want to know what that is, let me know down in the comments, and I may do a future video. So subscribe so you don't miss that video. But I think that people don't fully understand the ramifications of the tokenomics of Xen. If you understand that, then you can kind of understand where I'm going here with Fenix a little bit. I think we're in the first major pump of Xen. Let me put it that way. I think it's going to be a roller coaster. Again, I'll be talking about that in another video. Long term, right now, I'm bullish on it for a few reasons, and I'll cover some of those in a future video as well. But because everybody's so bullish on Xen right now, and this project is literally going to launch during what is essentially a Xen bull market, I think this is a great time to launch Fenix, a great time to launch it. And I think because historically people are aware, even though people may not be aware of Wise token, they may not be aware that Hex went up, 10,000x, basically because of, washing Ethereum or the Godwell. People don't even know about that. They don't even know it's a possibility. Many of the investors don't. All they know is that Hex did really well. And typically, when people come into another project that is similar, there's almost that project starts with FOMO. It's also this project's gonna burn the Xen token. So if you come down here, essentially what happens is you burn Xen to get Fenix, and then you start a stake. This is probably going to pump the Xen price, because here's what's gonna happen. People are minting Xen. You can mint Xen for free. Well, you can mint Xen for the cost of gas and time. Again, if you're not familiar with that, go watch that video. I'll put the card above. But Xen is interesting. It's like almost free to mint. It's very, very, very inexpensive to mint. You don't buy it. You can buy it on an exchange, but you don't have to. But unfortunately, when you mint Xen, you have to wait for, when you start the minting process, you have to put in a certain amount of days. For a lot of people, when they mint Xen, they'll put in 400 plus days until the mint is ready, until they can get their Xen tokens out. And the reason they put more days is because long story short, you just get more Xen. But what will happen is people will probably go purchase Xen on the DEX or on a centralized exchange so they can burn it for Fenix. This is what's been happening on every other Xen project that's came out so far. And that's why we've seen Xen go up. Here's something to consider. I don't know what's going to happen with Fenix long term. If you look at Hex and you look at Wise, it says that the project is probably going to dump at some point and go way down. I don't know that the project works long term. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm proven wrong. And by the way, I mean, people have Hex staked for years. So we may see another massive pump one day in Hex. I'm not saying that's not going to happen. I'm just saying right now, I think it's fair to say we're going to see a period of price pumping. And this is when we can get our risk off. So one thing you can do, because I think if Fenix does well, it's going to cause Xen to do well. But people are going to FOMO and buy Xen because you got to burn Xen to get Fenix initially until Fenix starts selling on an exchange. At which point it will not matter. I think people will still be using Xen to burn to get more Fenix. So here's how I'm thinking about we can play this. And I just want to be clear. I think it's possible we could see Fenix pump because of these two projects, because of FOMO, because everybody's wanting to get in first, because the Xen ecosystem is hot right now. Literally, people are becoming millionaires as I record this video. Literally, it's crazy. I mean, imagine going into a project with a couple $100 and going in a couple $100 and then all of a sudden seeing that 10x and knowing that there are people who went in with a couple thousand and some people went in 10,000 and that's already 10x inside of 30 days. This ecosystem is fire hot right now. I'm talking about the Xen ecosystem. I believe people are going to FOMO like crazy trying to get into the new project. And because Fenix is basically somewhat a copy of Hex, while removing some of the more centralized components of Hex that have been criticized, Hex itself is not. Hex itself is a decentralized app, but it's being criticized because of the developer Richard Hart. Joe Blau has none of those economic incentives for Fenix to launch. And here's what's interesting. This is fascinating. Not enough people are talking about this. We don't see a lot of clones yet in the Xen ecosystem. And I think the reason that we're not seeing a lot of clones is because when you launch a project with first principles, there's not a lot of economic incentive for somebody to clone that project. So therefore people don't do it. or they haven't done it yet, which I think is very, very fascinating. So let's accept the fact. Let's operate on the principle that Fenix is probably going to pump and people are going to FOMO into this thing. Here's my theory. If I was going, not financial advice, just an exercise, it would be interesting to see how this video ages. I think we could see the Xen price possibly double, if not triple, at the launch of Fenix. So let's go look at the price of Xen. So here we are. Xen's pulled back about 10%. Let's see if it could hit 1.2 or 1.3 potentially. I think that could happen. Absolutely, I think that could happen because of people FOMOing into Fenix. So if you had $1,000, hypothetically, round numbers, it could be $10,000, it wouldn't matter. And let's just say you didn't mint it, you bought Xen. If the price doubles or potentially triples, keep in mind one project launched, well, I guess two major projects launched. We saw Xen basically 10x. So if this next project launches and people are now thinking, oh no, what if we see another 10x? Then I think it's very likely we could see a double or triple. Let's just stay there, double or triple. So it's possible you could come into Xen Crypto with an investment, just buy it, let it double, cash out half, and now you're risk free. Here's something else that could happen. Would be the more riskier play because this may pump and dump really quickly. Burn, get Fenix, don't stake right away, hold it, and we may, because you get it, if we can get in early, we may see a double or triple or more just by getting in early. Don't stake right away. Then when we get some liquidity on the DEXs, we may be able to sell, and at that point, we may be able to sell half our back and get our original investment out. So there's two possible ways to get our original investment out. One is buy Xen, let the price pump because if people FOMO into Fenix, sell half of it, and then we get our investment out. And or go into Fenix, but don't stake it because when you stake it, you lock it up, and you can't unstake. If you unstake your Fenix early, you're going to get a massive penalty. So you don't want to unstake early once you stake it. If we burn Xen, get Fenix, wait for a price pump, and if we get a price pump, we sell half our bag and we get our investment out. And at that point, now we're holding a moon bag. We may be able to buy Xen. If Xen doubles or triples, take profit, then go into Fenix, don't stake. If Fenix doubles, take profit. If that happens, we're going to still be owning Xen potentially, and we could have some Xen tokens possibly still, and or we could have some Fenix tokens left over, but we will have doubled our original investment. We'll go in with 1,000. We'll buy Xen. Xen could double. If it doubles, at that point, we'll cash out our Xen back to ETH. We're holding that Xen. And I guess at that point, we'll take that Xen and we'll go into Fenix. So I guess we wouldn't have any Xen left over. We'll hold that Fenix. If that Fenix doubles, then we could, at that point, sell half our Fenix and go straight back to Ethereum, which at that time, we've doubled our original Ethereum stack because we've cashed out twice. Or if we wanted to, we could sell half our Fenix and go back to Xen. So then we're holding our original Ethereum, we're holding Xen tokens, and we're holding Fenix tokens. And at that point, if you want to, you could stake your Fenix token. The key here is play the pump. All too often, people hang out in the telegrams and they drink the Kool-Aid that it's going to go up forever. And the reality is a lot of small investors get hurt. But if you can get your risk off the table quickly, then you can just hold your moon bag. Now you're good to go. Let me just tell you, I'm optimistic about Fenix. I told you why it could go down, and I pointed out Hex and I pointed out Wise. But I'm hoping that the community of Xen understands the possibility of something like Fenix. I've always believed that something like this project should be able to work. The only thing that I ever hated about Hex is how much hate people had for Richard Hart. I understand people don't like his personality, yada, yada, yada. Personality doesn't matter to me. Can he develop a project? Does a project do well? I think he did create something innovative. Now, I wonder if because of this big drop, if he hasn't hurt himself with the project. Not sure. I mean, if you look at the Wise project, I think the price action looks a little bit more healthy there. This is year to date. I mean, this year's made money. This is all time. I mean, I feel like this is, obviously we're in the the bear market here, but I feel like this looks healthier as opposed to this chart. What are your thoughts? So that's been Fenix. If anyone knows the developer, he can definitely reach out to me. I'd love to bring him onto the channel. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think the future holds for Fenix and for Xen. If you love earning passive income with cryptocurrency, obviously that's what attracted you to these projects. I love passive income projects. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, on the end screen, I'm going to show you a video where I've been able to copy successful traders And when I put up that video, I earned over $500 per month, well, $554 per month using those strategies. Take a look at the video. I'll put it on the end screen. Thank you so much for watching. Ladies and gentlemen, decentralized cryptocurrency equals freedom. This is Crypto Wealth. I'm out.